Information uncensored.
Welcome to another episode of Tales from the Forlorn Dose. I am your host, Cybersmiley.
I am your co-host, Wisdom. Greetings, programs. Once again, we have a guest today who's joining us, and it's looking out to be a fantastic episode, or at least a fantastic interview. We'd like to welcome Chris Spivey to the show.
Thank you both. I'm happy to be here. I was just going to lurk and not say anything for like the first 10 minutes, but I figured that might break the flow of the show.
Oh, no.
Throw our questions against the wall and see what bounces.
Hello? Is this another technical issue? Life of podcasting, you know? If those who don't know Chris, CEO of Darker Hue Studios, have put out Haunted West. Description of it. But I'm just going to read through your credits of what you've done. So our against are. So you've done Haunted West, you've done Harlem Unbound, won 3 gold Ennies as well as an IGN groundbreaking award. Worked on the Call of Cthulhu.
Is this a chance for me to like toot my own horn a little bit and say that Haunted West also won the silver Ennie for best rules? They're rules that I made with a couple of amazing freelancers, all by Darker Studios.
There you go.
This is 100% a toot your own horn place. You go right ahead.
Chris Spivey, the award-winning game designer.
Oh.
You've also worked on the Call of Cthulhu starter set, Cthulhu Confidential, Harlem Unbound, 7th Sea, Land of Fire and Gold, Dice 2nd Edition, Trail of Cthulhu, Out of the 1,000 Years Light, Dune Adventures in the Imperium, Chicago by Night, Fire of the Doctor Who, the role-playing game, as well as Dear to Our Heart, Cyberpunk Red, which is done Black Room, distributed to Black, done Dear Gal Darcy. Finally, you Red Horn, Hope's Calling. Hope is definitely near and dear to
Yeah,
Wisdom in
a little
my
bit.
heart.
And I'm also one of the writers on the hopefully soon to be released Night City 2045.
All right, so you're bringing it up, so we're going to ask questions about that. Just
But
be
first,
prepared. But first,
so we have what we call the full auto questionnaire. Short, quick.
So, all right, we're still in like horn tooting. So I'm sorry if people aren't used to horn tooting. I rarely get to toot my own horn, so I do want to take a minute to say that I've worked on a bunch of other stuff, but the most recent thing that I've done that's huge, that I am super proud of, is I've become the production director for Arc Dream. Arc Dream is a great company that made Delta Green, Godlike. They have the Black Company IP now, and as of about a month ago, I took on that role.
Nice.
And so I'm a full-time ttrpg professional.
Woohoo!
that's fantastic.
It's the dream of most gamers.
Yeah, the Black Company thing, is that based off the books?
It is, and that's why if you saw my recent social media, I've started reading the Black Company books.
Oh, they're so good. They are so
They are. I'm loving
they're
it.
so good.
I'm not going to talk about it because I don't want any spoilers, but they are.
Right.
All right. So
Okay, that is cool.
back to our full questionnaire. So it's short, quick questions with short, quick answers. Wrong answers. So keep that in mind. So first question: 2013, 2020, 2045, or 2077?
2045, aka Red.
Favorite cyberpunk role.
Nomad, hands down.
Yeah.
Favorite piece of cyberware.
Subdermal armor. I know it's not sounding flashy and everything, but top notch, hands down. I would take subdermal armor. It could be the fact that it's the Luke Cage in my soul and being able to be somewhat
Mhm.
bulletproof to catch people off guard. It appeals to me.
Sweet Christmas.
Next.
I'm not wearing a tiara though.
Yeah. Next question. Favorite cyberpunk weapon.
I'm a big fan of the heavy pistol, but I'll be even more specific. There's a new one that came out that's like the Tommy Knocker. That's part combination shotgun and very heavy pistol.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Uh,
I am curious though if they're trying to make a play on a very. So I'm not. This isn't necessarily Artellosaurian, but in the Civil War, the Confederates had this thing called Lamont. I think it's how it's pronounced, and it was a pistol that could fire shotgun shells. It was horribly designed though, and it's like a piece of crap weapon. and
Horribly
they used it
designed.
because they're fucking idiots. Anyway, I'm mentioning that one,
Senator.
but this one from Cyberpunk is awesome.
Okay.
Next question is favorite cyberpunk Red or 2020 book.
Red is gonna be 2045. You haven't seen it yet. I wrote for it, so I'm super excited. So all my answers are gonna be biased. They're gonna be purely based on what I've got to be able to add to it,
Okay.
or something
Sure.
that I've seen that other people did that wows me so much I can't do anything but talk about it.
Okay, so here's a harder question. Least favorite cyberpunk Red or 2020 book.
As I am least familiar with 2020, but I've started reading through some of the old 2020 stuff when I started getting work from Altorian. The book that I have read the least, I'm not saying it's my least favorite. I think it's called Maximum Metal.
Okay. Favorite.
How'd you like that answer?
Very good. Favorite, and we've had very interesting answers on that question. Anyways, favorite Night City gang.
The Deadwoods. I made them, so they're a huge bit for me. They're going to be in 2045. I would also say that I have a love of the Zoners, but they're not really a gang. They're kind of more of a movement, so it's another larger discussion about that.
Right. So you played Cyberpunk 2077. Pan Am, Judy, or Rogue?
Do you really need to ask me? You already know I'm a nomad. Pan Am.
Ride or die.
Every time I played it, I beat it twice, and every time I still romance Pan Am.
Carrie, River, or Goro?
Harry.
Songbird or Reed?
I love Idris Elba, but I'm gonna go Songbird because I can't make myself help the man.
So moving on, so you've seen Edgerunners, so Lucy, Rebecca, or Keith?
Lucy.
David, Maine, or Pilar?
Maine.
Smasher or Faraday?
Smasher.
What is your
Classics.
What is your favorite cyberpunk movie, anime, or TV series?
So I'm fairly certain a lot of people have told you Blade Runner. And so I don't want to be amongst their ilk. I want to go in a totally different direction and see if anyone else has said those one. And it is one I like anyway. I'm going to say Metropolis 1927.
No one has said that, but we agree. It's a cyberpunk movie.
Yeah. 100%. It is the proto cyberpunk. Without it, cyberpunk wouldn't exist.
Yeah. It would be no Blade Runner at all.
There would be no Blade Runner. There'd be no.
Philip K. Dick would not have been influenced how
yeah.
he was. It's.
Anyways, moving on. Favorite cyberpunk fictional character?
So before I get to your question, as I like to deviate, so how are you liking my one-word answers? Aren't they very like succinct and?
Yes.
Decker.
I mean, that's what we're going for with this. Now, hopefully, we'll get some elaboration after the questionnaire is over.
So Deckard by Harrison Ford in the 82 movie, not Deckard from the book, because Deckard from the book is very different.
Yes.
And not Deckard in 2049, which is a different narration, but like the original one, because Harrison Ford has so much charisma that even though Deckard is an absolute bastard that you want to hate, you can't.
Dick, Gibson, Stevenson, or Sterling?
Dick.
Favorite cyberpunk novel?
So I'm torn because I'm not sure if you'll consider it one. I'm gonna say Parable of the Sorrow by Octavia Butler. But if you don't want to count that, I could then move over to say Ubik by Dick. But technically, you might not count that one because that has like psychic powers and shit in it too. So it's gonna be one of those. Is like my realm.
Well, I haven't read the first
I mean,
one, so I
I
can't
think they
tell.
both count. I haven't read the first one either, but I mean, if Akira counts, then Ubik counts. We classify them as cyberpunk adjacent, but they're there in the mix.
Yeah. And so then it becomes a kind of a question because if you read a lot of Afrofuturism, Afrofuturism has a lot of overlapping with cyberpunk.
Yes.
Yes.
Favorite cyberpunk comic graphic novel, if any?
Has anyone said The Invisibles?
No.
No. Uh, and that's an interesting answer. I mean, it did form. It was one of the many things that formed the basis for the Matrix, at least as far as enough of it was the basis of the Matrix that Morrison sued over it.
Yeah.
And so
the
I would consider that
Wachowskis
pretty
have admitted
cyberpunk.
to borrowing. We're going to say borrowing insight.
Borrowing.
We'll call it that.
Yeah.
Heavily borrowing.
And the final
Because I
question.
remember finding Invisibles when I first stumbled over in the comic shop and falling in love with it. And it's one of the things that really made me enjoy cyberpunk more. And it becomes more of a thing of like, if you're considering cyberpunk to be within a very narrow confine where it doesn't necessarily have magic or psionics, and then that's a larger discussion about various branches of cyberpunk.
Okay.
Yeah.
Final question. Is Shadowrun cyberpunk?
Yes.
All right.
That's it. We've come to the agreement that Shadowrun is cyberpunk adjacent. Mainly because I think
Magic.
Derek, magic, yeah. And we have kind of like, for us, aliens, magic, superpowers are kind of like you have the tropes of
It
cyberpunk,
sets it
but
aside.
not, yeah.
Faster than light travel.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
I would say it would probably depend on the cost of using whatever said super ability is. Like for Shadowrun, there's which edition you play with. But I'm saying second edition because that's what I'm getting ready to run for my group. There's a drain associated with it. So there's an aspect of like you're giving up something to be able to do it at some point of cost. It's almost like having cyberware installed in you. Cyberware takes your essence, magic takes a drain on you. So both of them are impactful to have abilities that make you essentially better than everyone else for a short period of time. But the world you inhabit is still a cyberpunk world.
Agreed. I mean, it's definitely dystopian. So that's the questionnaire, and welcome to the show. So, you want to give kind of a little bit of background of how you got into gaming? What's the origin story?
I do, but before I do that, I would kind of like to know from the both of you, since you like to ask questions to other people, I am really curious about your answers before we get into this. I don't know if you told your listeners, but I would like to know.
We have, and that is a previous show. I think it was during one of our end of year reviews that each other's.
So, since you've done it, I do want to ask then, what's your favorite cyberpunk movie or anime from each of you to help me feel that I'm learning more about you as you learn about me?
So, Nemesis is a 1992
Albert Pune's film starring Oliver Grunier, Tim Thomerson, Brian James.
That is my cyberpunk.
It is certainly my most rewatched. Like I can watch that movie anytime. It's he went first, so he gets to call it. But it's
your favorite is your favorite. You don't.
It's my favorite too.
What's your second favorite? How's
that? My second favorite. All right. This answer changes on a daily basis, but today the answer I'm going to give is Circuitry Man. And the only person who's in it that ever went anywhere is Vern. Oh, his name is escaping me. The guy who played in Mad Max, the main biker, not the leader of the guys, but the one with the assless chaps and Road Warrior.
It's been too long.
Something Burn. But yeah, Circuitry Man. It was a
B movie.
Like Nemesis, a very low budget movie. But it's the first movie I ever saw where people had like interface plugs on their head, and
okay.
There's a character named Plughead who's got like 50 of them.
Yeah, it's very cheesy.
It's very cheesy. It's just super fun to watch. It's not a very good movie.
No.
Like, don't get me wrong. Like, you're not going to watch it and be like, that was the best thing I ever. No. It's not even a very great movie, but it hit right at the time I was really getting into Cyberpunk, and it became one of those, like, I'm going to watch this anytime I'm working on the game. Nemesis, Circuitry Man, Cherry 2000.
Yeah, Hardwire.
Wow.
Hardwired. There was just this litany of movies that all came out around the same time that were just like perfectly in that genre. I don't know. Anyway, that's my answer to the movie. Now, anime.
This is where we have a disagreement.
Yeah.
Well, this is a hard one because there's some amazing anime out there that covers amazing anime in general, but Cyberpunk even more exceptional.
Bubblegum Crisis, without a doubt, is my favorite anime of all time. I would also say Cowboy Bebop, but Cowboy Bebop is Cyberpunk adjacent. However, it's very, very adjacent. If you just remove the space travel, everything about that show is pure Cyberpunk.
I think we just became best friends.
Yeah.
And for me,
Appleseed is what got me into Cyberpunk. So yeah, I can't choose just one. It's like going into Baskin Robbins.
For me, it's the default of Ghost in the Shell. When I saw that movie, I was just blown away. I know it's slow for some people, but it just
depends on the version. Like, yeah, the original film version, I think Oshii is a terribly overrated director. But Standalone Complex is near perfect. At least until 2045. We're going to differ on that opinion.
Yes.
So, one more media question, because I'm a big media guy. So I'm really curious. Do you two think that The Warriors is Cyberpunk?
Yes.
I do.
Okay.
I mean, that's where.
I mean, they stated implicitly that it takes place in the near future.
I've had discussions with other people that don't think that it is, but that's not.
And to me, I do not have confirmation from writers we've talked to, but I believe Warriors was kind of an inspiration for Gangs of Night City, and just have.
Oh, I don't think we.
Kooky.
I don't think we need confirmation for that. That's like I'll be flat out like the Warriors and The Last Dragon and all those other '80s gang movies that came out are 100%. Yeah, they are 100% the inspiration for like the gangs in my game.
So, I may have tried to slip the glow in past Jay at one point in time for something, but I may have tried it.
Oh man, yeah, best friends.
So, Chris, how did you get into tabletop?
So I grew up in Alabama as a young kid that loved to read way too much, and my buddy and I were able to pretty much wander wherever we wanted to. We're talking when we were 6 or 7, we could leave the house and come back whenever. It was a different time back then,
Yes,
so people didn't care where their kids went as long as they potentially came back within 24 hours.
I
So
love that.
I
Within
saved up my
24
money.
hours.
Yeah. All right. So I'm from Alabama. I'm from Alabama in like the 70s and 80s.
Yeah.
It was totally different.
It was so glorious.
So I'd saved up my money, and we walked all the way across town to like this bookshop. And when I was there, I saw this red box set that jumped out to me. It had like a dragon on it. It looked pretty cool. So I bought it, and then I came back home. I read it. It was pretty interesting. And so then I started running games for my buddy Jay. And so that's like the initial hook when I was 7 or 8. I was already GMing then, and I'm the forever GM.
Yeah, that's a tough thing to shake sometimes. You're like, oh, I really
Yeah.
want to play this system. Okay. Who's going to run
I,
it?
I played Cyberpunk in 1989 and 1990. From there, I went to like 2005 before I actually got to play in a Cyberpunk game.
Like for me, it was D&D primarily up until about 12 or 13. And I went from Red Box Set with my buddy Jay until I met some other people in junior high, and then became AD&D. And I played with them for a while. And eventually that branched off into me working a lot of summers to earn money. So then I went and I bought this little game because it jumped out at me, had a big monster on the cover. And I got home and I started reading. It was really history intensive, and I've always loved history. And I was reading it. It's a little game, people may know. It's called Call of Cthulhu. And that became like my hook for a long time. And Call of Cthulhu became my game from when I discovered it. I even like started making my own game system roughly based on some of the stuff that I saw in there. Then I made like a fantasy version of so I was a big Michael Moorcock fan. So I made a fantasy version of that world also. Surprisingly enough, I didn't know at the time that Chaosium also had the IP for Stormbringer. If I'd known that, I would have probably just bought that book, and it would have saved a whole bunch of design work. And I may not be a designer today if I knew that. Then I made this African folklore world. And then I made a noir thing and a sci-fi thing, and I became obsessed with game design for a couple of years there when I was still really young. And eventually, the group of people I was gaming with brought out a game called Shadowrun, and that was my first real introduction into Cyberpunk proper.
Oh.
So that's why I'm more inclined to be accepting of magic and psionics in my Cyberpunk. Because I saw Akira when it came out, the psychic powers, and it's there, but Shadowrun was a thing.
Yeah, that's the one thing that I think both me and Eric 2020 didn't get as popular as Shadowrun. Kind of always shadowed.
I think in the end they're winning though.
Yeah.
I definitely think they're winning now.
Very true. Yeah, so we got into Shadowrun. How did you get involved with Artosorian and started working with Mike and his crew?
So I've always been a fan of Mike as a basically a black RPG player. To know there was a black person out there making RPG games was inspiring for me. And with a love of history, our Telesarians also created a little game called Castle Falkenstein, which could be like a personal favorite of mine that got me into Artelosarian. Then I was watching a bunch of anime, and I owned copies of Bubblegum Crisis, Bubblegum Crash, 80 Police, like all their anime books I own. They're on my shelf right over there. And so that reinforced it. Working with them happened decades later, because I'm an old man. Decades later, when I was at Gen Con, after Hollow Bound had won some different innies, I met Jay Gray, and we sort of hit it off and we talked for a bit. And when I was working on Haunted West, I reached out to Jay because I needed someone to do a little extra writing and someone that had an understanding of history. Because Haunted West is a massive, massive endeavor. It's a scant 800-page weird Western book that gives a detailed deep dive into the actual Western story and all the people that helped make it happen. And then I layer in an award-winning game mechanics on top of it. And it has a 3-tiered system. And on top of that, I put in an alternate reality where Reconstruction is successful. But it deals with the actual issues of what it takes to make Reconstruction successful instead of it being strangled to death by Johnson once Lincoln's assassinated. And so I needed someone that understood history and was also open to the idea of doing that. Because I had one writer who couldn't quite get their head around what we're trying to do. And so that interaction with Jay let me know that Jay was an awesome person. Jay vibed with some of the directions I was going. And then they needed someone to work on Black Chrome. And it's like, hey, Chris, would you do some Black Chrome work for us? And I was like, I would love to write on Cyberpunk. And that is the initial start.
Yeah, so Lord Jesus Crust says that it's a history book, an RPG game, and a very heavy melee weapon, all in one.
Well, all right. You want me to talk about do you want me to talk about Cyberpunk? Do you want me to tell you about the endeavor that it took to make Haunted West during COVID? Because Kickstarter was that December, November before COVID. Kickstarter ends. I have like the writers and everything else, and COVID hits like immediately when it all starts. So the price of paper more than quadruples. We're all under a bunch of mental stress at the time. So I had to deal with all of that, putting together something that had never been done, a book like Haunted West. I had probably the most diverse team of people from an array of different voices because I'm trying to tell what becomes the American story, but the American story is made of people from everywhere.
Yep.
To do all of that. Thank you. And to do all of that, to do it accurately, to try to represent people, and to then deal with the constant stress that COVID itself brought was an endeavor. And to make it right, all right, so I'll go back to Alabama a little bit. Growing up in Alabama, I was dirt poor. I didn't have any money. So when I said I worked lawns to buy role-playing books, I remember that even now as a designer. So when I make a role-playing game, I want to make sure that game has everything you need. You don't need any other books at all if you own this game. Because I remember young Chris buying a book and saying, I don't have the money to afford these other 2 books. I need to be able to run this game for my friends.
Yep.
Yeah, and I come from, well, not a similar background, but just, low income. And to me, like, after Dungeons and Dragons, it was Traveler, just because it was just a $20 box set. All you needed is those 3 books that were inside. God knows how many hours, how many days of pleasure from just those simple books. Yeah, and I think that's kind of where game design is now towards, is 1 book, all you need. All the other stuff is just fluff.
Yeah. But part of the problem that I encountered was, so I made this 1 book, and it's massive, and it took a bunch of research, editing, copy editing, art, and an array of other processes that people aren't really aware of that go on to make. And so I'm paying people the best rate I can, because one of the other things for the ttrpg industry is people are frequently underpaid. And the only way to pay people more is if you make more for the product, because regardless of how much we all love this thing and it's like a passion project, it's still a business somewhere in there, and you have to take that into account.
Yep.
And so the cost of Haunted West is 1 big book, 800 pages, and I think I was charging around $80 for it. If I'd made it into 3 different books, I could have charged $200 for it and made a profit.
Yeah.
But people have complained that it costs too much for 1 book. But then I'm trying to explain to them that I could have done the other way, which would have been $200, which most people couldn't afford.
Right.
I'm sorry, we totally shifted from Cyberpunk to printing dynamics and cost ratios.
No. We've had these discussions, right? Especially with like Jay Gray, and I think there's part of an audience, especially with a gaming audience, who just don't always understand the business side of role-playing games, and kind of educating, because you see in the various forums of, whether it's people complaining or bad-mouthing a product because it's taking so long, or why isn't it in print, and they don't comprehend the struggles that you guys as game designers and game producers have to go through. Like when we had Jay on, he was talking about, like you said, in COVID, there was no paper to be had because Amazon was buying it all, right?
Yeah.
So independent publishers were, basically screwed out of out of trying to produce anything, which of course drives up the price. And we kind of see it now with like the whole AI revolution causing everyone's energy bills to start spiking because who wants to buy all the energy? These AI companies so the computing process can go through. So just explaining that, and you're educating, the audience, and not or they go to Reddit and start,
I mean,
shit posting about whatever product or why is it taking so long.
whatever delay,
Yeah.
whatever scheduling issue, it helps to anything we can do to throw out like factual information and kind of head off the negative. I don't even care about the reviews. Just I want people to enjoy the game, and I don't want them to have a negative experience. If they know what's going on, it's just better all around.
Yeah. But one of the things as a creative in general, this is me. So I wear a bunch of hats. Even so for Dark Horse Studios, it is mine. It is fully my company. I am like the studio. And occasionally I can hire some other freelancers to come in and help me do some work. And I try to pay them the best I can, and they're amazing. But at the end of the day, they're people that I've hired to do something that care about what I'm doing, and they go home. Then at night, at 2 or 3 in the morning, I'm still there grinding away to make whatever this thing is. And so that is taking time away from my family. At one point in time, my day job is now in the industry. So it's a weird transition still for me right now that I'm going through to like deal with originally having worked for a fairly funded research center that was very much different than now being a production person, which a lot of the skills I'm talking about now for Haunted West apply directly to the work that I'm doing for Arcturian. So it's a learning process to some extent. So I'm vocalizing it for all the people listening here today and thinking through it myself as it helps me be able to do the job tomorrow that I have to do.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
And I think a lot of creative, and I remember growing up when, various artists, all those who were basically not getting paid anything, like do what you love, eventually the money will come, was always a
That's
phrase.
not true.
I know. If you
don't tell people it's a fallacy because then they won't do it anymore.
But it's a blend of luck and determination.
100%.
Yeah, because no matter how skilled you are, if the opportunity never arises for the right amount of timing based on luck, it won't matter.
Yep.
Because one of the things, so my family and I, we went to, so I turned 50 this year. I'll give my age out now, 50.
Welcome to the club.
We went,
Yep.
Yes!
You're an
Everything
adult
hurts. And so one of the things I want to do, regardless of being in the Army, getting to go to other countries, I didn't get to go anywhere fun for those trips. So I've always wanted to go to England. I'm a bit of a Britophile because I love British TV and British media specifically. And so we went on a trip to London and Paris, sort of like 2 weeks, split roughly in half for each one. And the point I'm going with this ramble is that we took like a tour of Montmartre, where all the artists were, and they did all their paintings and their work. And those are people that believe that eventually the money would come if they did their work. And it didn't for most of them. And they starved.
Yeah.
I mean, it did for other people, just not for them.
Yeah.
Like the people
One out of every
who
100
owned their art, the money came in for them just fine.
Sometimes after they died, though.
Yeah, usually.
Long story short, to say, do what you love, but make sure you get paid for it.
Yes. And that's the hard part, right? If you're starting out. Moving on to a different topic. So you've done a lot of work with Call of Cthulhu and weird fiction. Cyberpunk and dark dystopian games are kind of a different type of horror game. What elements do you think it makes a good horror spooky scenario? Or what are the required when trying to create a dark game?
In which genre?
Well, I mean, do you not see similar elements that you would put into? I mean, granted, with Call of Cthulhu and those type of horror games, you have a bit of a supernatural versus Cyberpunk. It's more
Well,
more
I'm
real
thinking from the
horror, which
aspect
is
of
weird.
for like Call of Cthulhu, a lot of that is it's a depowered sort of horror associated with it.
Yeah.
Compared to Cyberpunk, you're replacing your humanity, which has its own horror, which is different than being a depowered horror, but you're becoming extra powered in that process. So the things that would potentially scare you or frighten you as a player would be different.
Well, yeah, I can see that, but there's also in like a dystopian future, right? And similar to the whole cosmic horror is the concept that as a person you are I wouldn't say inferior, but you are just a speck on a on an anthill that's a god or superpower or some other dark entity can just brush you away, and then causing the destruction of the society you are in, as it were, right? So, for example, a mega corporation coming into your local neighborhood and doing some nefarious experiments, injecting gas or injecting a chemical into the water supply to see what a community, how they would behave, type of thing. So I guess I view those kind of like high level concepts as kind of like a my point, but just the concepts of what is horror, right? And me, horror is something that the person has no control over, but yet it's happening, and trying to give that certain feeling of dread to a player in a game.
So I guess for me when you see horror as a horror writer, I think about the different types of horror and sort of the emotional beats behind them. Because if I'm thinking of a cyberpunk based horror, because we could say that horror is in generally is like horror of the unknown. You could call it like the overarching horror. Even what you're describing now is I don't know what this thing is and I don't know how to deal with it.
Right.
So there's a bit of anxiety associated with that. But now some aspects of horror, because even if you look at a horror movie, there are slasher horror movies, there are like tension horror movies, there are like cosmic horror movie, cosmic terror horror movies that are different. So there are different layers of it. But if I'm thinking cyberpunk specifically, one of the core elements of cyberpunk is removal of your humanity. And by that lack of humanity, you're losing some of the ability to be afraid of anything.
Right.
So are we talking about this horror from the aspect of someone reading it and I'm trying to scare them as a reader, or as a player where you're playing a cyber enhanced person that potentially doesn't have the same emotional spectrum as another person?
True.
Because then that horror becomes your lack of humanity, which is similar to what vampire horror is.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, with like you were saying, with the improvement of power for a cyberpunk character, right, and getting more cybernetics and becoming superhuman. The horror element there is getting into like body horror, right? Losing control of a cybernetic, or even finding out that it's more harmful for you than what you really think, or the benefits you're pulling from it, right? Like the monkey paw, with the wishes, right? you make a wish and it's okay, it's the wish I wanted, kinda, but not really. And playing into
Or like
those
this,
kind of
or like the story about the box. I think essentially when you can make a wish, but someone in the world dies, you know, don't know who that person is.
the problem is the billionaires of the world are already doing that. But anyways, not get into that topic. But yeah, that's where I was kind of looking. What do you see as kind of like some element play in introducing like horror into a game? Yeah. Question was trying to get at.
So for Cyberpunk specifically, kind of how I said, I'd focus on the lack of humanity and the interaction with that. But for actual because it's not nearly the same as a cosmic horror.
Mhm.
Cosmic horror is completely different because they don't have the capability to be able to fight whatever it is. So there becomes more of a challenge of trying to outthink whatever the situation is going to be. And then even knowing, regardless of if you outthink it, you're still doomed to die. Probably not today, maybe tomorrow, if we get lucky, next week. And so that's a different thing because you're striving to continue your existence and the existence of everyone around you. One of the core crux of Cyberpunk is to die young and look beautiful.
Style over substance.
So it's different things that would have to be pulled on to make it horrific for you. And that's not saying that you could have characters in a big gunfight and they like fail a check and like they get scared, but that's not horror. So it goes to horror and fear. So two different elements.
Right. And maybe that's my so my wife is part of the Horror Writers Association, and one of the writers of that, she says that Jaws is not a horror movie, whereas my stance it is. She says it's an action adventure. I'm like, no, it's playing on your fears and fears of unknown and giving you anxiety.
I mean, it changed the way the world looks at sharks, and yeah, it's a horror movie.
Now
there are action adventure aspects to it, but it's a horror movie.
Now, granted, this is coming from a point of view of when I saw it, right? So it came out in *77. My mom took us to the theater to go see a double feature, which was Close Encounters, which was great, and then Jaws, and she wanted to watch Jaws because she read the novel, and she kept us kids there. Win. And I feel even worse for my sister because she was 2 years younger than me.
If you're considering Jaws to be a horror movie, that means you should also consider what was that fucking movie? Marky Wahlberg's Sniper movie to be a horror movie because you never know when death would rain down on you because it's a sniper. Same thing.
Yeah.
I'm out doing my thing. Bam, gone.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, there are there's certainly horror aspects to it. Yeah, it's amazing how genres can blur like that sometimes.
I know, that's why we have an entire I do a podcast about it called Genreless that talks about how there is no real such thing as genre because people just keep putting everything in a big melting pot and pouring it out.
Oh, I need to check that out.
That makes sense.
We actually covered Bubblegum Crisis a year or two ago.
Then Derek is definitely going to start following your
snap to attention.
So what are kind of some of the core design principles you use for creating a RPG?
So a lot of my answers are going to be like caveated based on what you mean specifically.
Right.
Do you want me to focus more on Cyberpunk? Do you want me to focus on stuff that I do with my own company? Do you want me to focus on stuff that I do with other companies?
Well, so
because each of those is different. There's a few sort of overlapping pieces, but there's different things are stressed per company and what the IP is.
So you believe that that certain principles or game design is better for a particular genre or a particular way of playing?
To some extent, but I'm saying more from a company aspect, because this goes back to business hat. If, for instance, so when I'm working for Artelsorian, when I'm working for Mike and Jay, they know that I love history. So regardless of what I do, I'm going to sneak some history in there. But the focus of what they're doing for Cyberpunk isn't necessarily the history. It's developing the world of Night City and all these other cool action beats.
Right.
And so I'd focus more on those different aspects of it, like the mass combat for Hope Reborn that I did for that piece.
By the
Jay
way,
wanted a big
awesome.
barroom brawl. I was like, all right, if you want a barroom brawl, we need a mass combat. But mass combat needs to flow for Cyberpunk needs to be different than what it would be if it was a mass combat rule for D&D. Okay. That's not going to work in a Cyberpunk world in a bar, and the focus needs to be solely on the PC's action and random events occurring around them. Right. So I tailored it to that.
Yeah, did a hell of a job too.
Yeah, since you brought it up, I thought that whole scenario with the mass combat, with the fires going on, and separating out or giving the party a decisions of, if you do this, then there's going to be problems here. If you do this, there's going to be problems over here, and trying to present a challenge to the party versus, here, kick down the door, fight the monster. The whole problem solving of that whole scenario, which, I mean, granted, I don't own a lot of games out there in various scenarios, but this kind of caught my eye. I've never, at least in my encounter, found a scenario that kind of plotted out all of that so well. So,
yeah, I mean, I will say flat out, with the exception of the opening interview or the opening intro, your section was my favorite, and that those mass combat rules had a lot to do with it. They covered an area that is woefully underrepresented in Cyberpunk.
Thank you.
Especially in a game where people can start riots.
I know. So if you're talking about the first adventure, I want to say that one was actually written by my buddy and my journalist co-host, Eddie Webb. Shout out to Eddie, who is an amazing person that you should get on the podcast.
We will.
Yeah, we need to get him. Yeah.
But no, so if anything, my core design principle is going to be player agency. And a lot of the ability that I have for writing scenarios comes from my initial love of Call of Cthulhu. And I developed scenario writing skills probably working on Cthulhu Confidential with Pelgrane Press. Like, I could always write them, but being able to horn the skills in for Pelgrane was different because I had a very tight turnaround for Pelgrane. I had like a month to write a scenario. And so the scenarios for Cthulhu Confidential were around 20,000 words. So I've got a full-time job. I just had a kid. Well, all right, I didn't have the kid. My wife had the kid, but I was hoping to take care of said kid together with her. Yeah. Fix that, because I'm not taking credit because it was a lot of work for her to that out.
Yeah.
So I was doing all of that while writing like these 20 to 30,000 word scenarios that had to have branching paths, but needed to be succinct enough because they're solo adventures for Cthulhu Confidential for people to play. And so that helped hone in my scenario writing skills, which I then get to apply to other games, other settings. And so even if it feels sort of like part of this adventure is a fetching quest to do different things, you have to make active choices about what you're going to do, and there are consequences if you don't do them. You don't fail, but it makes other things harder. And then there's the underlying plot that's there too that you could miss that then impacts things later on in the adventure.
Got it.
I'm not going to give spoilers, but I want to talk about some of the different mechanics for it.
Right. So, are you a crunch guy or try to?
Yes. You haven't read Haunted West, have you?
No, I have not. I've heard one of my friends brought it over and like showed me the book, and it is a thick chunk of a tree.
It looks gorgeous, but it is priced out of my reach, I'm afraid.
All right, so I'm going to take a minute to talk about Haunted West. Haunted West,
By all means.
is the base core mechanic of Haunted West is a simple D100, like roll under a skill. Or it's a D20 to roll under a trait. Like, you have stats that go from 1 to 20. You roll under it. Hey, I successfully pushed something off of someone with my strength. Or skills that are like between D100. I have like a 75% in lasso. I got a 60 in lasso. Bam, you succeeded. You lassoed this person. Like, that's the base core line mechanic. And then I started layering other mechanics on top of it that the GM can either choose or not choose to use. So it's a multi-layered, multi-tiered system of varying complexity. Because I like really complex, crunchy systems, but I know everyone else doesn't.
Yeah.
But the reason it's D100, it is so simple to understand. 75 or under, roll me a D100.
Yep.
That's it. Like, that's all you need to know to play the game. One of the other layers, I created something called the Jack system. So in the Jacks, if you succeed something by 10 points, you earn a Jack. It's like an in-game meta currency that you can, in Haunted West, you have different options. You can use a Jack to either increase a skill, like a skill by 10% to make it easier to succeed, or you could spend a Jack to get the lowest level of success on any skill. So say, for instance, I need to make an accounting roll for some reason. Got to discover later. I have an accounting of 5, but I've earned a jack. I can spend that jack to succeed on that accounting roll. Bam, got it.
Nice. So it's kind of like a bit of a reward to the game.
Yes, but you need to like sort of explain how whatever you did it. But the big thing is, and the other rule associated with that is I created the river. So if you earn jacks, you can flow them in your river, which means you can hold those jacks for the entire scenario for use them whenever you want to.
Sounds like someone's a poker player.
It's a Western game. I'm not making it card based, but there's a bit of Western element even in the mechanics.
Got it.
And so then there's other stuff that you can add on for more complication. But for the 3-tiered system, like 1 tier is all that traditional stuff with a whole bunch of other widgets and dots you can pull. Then there is a more narrative version where the GM never rolls. The player rolls, and it describes everything like in 1 or 2 rolls.
Okay.
Or the third one, we get full-on miniature combat. We can like minis, you can do all your stuff. There's like stamina points. You get X number of movement to let you do this and that. And it's built so that in one session, if you want, you can like flow the different systems of the game itself.
Yeah, and that's kind of like the thing that I like about a lot of the systems that I usually play is the optional rules. Like, here's the basics of it. You can use the basics, nice, simple, streamlined, but here's additional rules if you want to make your game a little more complex. Which is one of the reasons why I got into 2020 was, Mike always described interlock system as kind of like a dialing system. So you could ratchet certain things up and ratchet certain things down as needed for your gameplay.
I mean, that philosophy is the entire basis of Interlock Unlimited. So yeah, I agree with it.
So, and it always gets
Sorry, go ahead.
It always gets me on how a lot of players, especially from the Dungeons & Dragons point of view, that system's too complicated. There's too much crunch. I'm like, have you looked at your spell lists and your ability lists?
How many books does it require to just get the feats for your characters sorted out? Like 4 or 5? And with 3.5, it was much, much worse. Like,
oh yeah,
I played a monk that had his stuff came from 12 different books by the time he was level 20. It was ridiculous.
Yeah,
that's why it's a business.
Yeah,
and that's why, regardless of what we may think about D&D, they got a shit ton of money.
Yeah, they do.
That's why. If you're gonna play Dungeons and Dragons in this day and age, D&D Beyond is the way to go.
Well, that's we'll see how long that lasts.
That's a bold statement. My new best friend.
I like my easy breezy cover girl Dungeons and Dragons where I don't have to search through books.
So I enjoy the page flipping. It could be because I'm inherently, I'm not going to say a pat rack. Let's use a better term, a collector.
Yeah, no, I'm there. I just can't afford any of it anymore. And I love flipping through various books for the lore and background information and things like that. But when it comes to the rules, I'd really rather they all be in one place.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of the hard part because you give the basic rules, and then as a design team, I can definitely see, actually, I wanted to expand a little more on this and create a supplement. Now, I think one of the missing things of a lot of, well, not a lot of, some game companies is that we need to put out a new edition. And then, of course, if you start putting out more editions, players are going to complain, like, you're just trying to make us, squeeze more money out of us. And it's like, yeah, we're kind of doing that, but we're also trying to make it, a lot accessible because you have all the rules in one place. So
it's a fine line.
Yeah.
And the big thing, though, is if you're going to make an edition, you should make enough changes in the edition that it feels noticeably different. So, for instance, Haunted West has 2 editions, which you mentioned when you're given like the horn tooting.
Yep.
The first edition of Haunted West was purely Dark Age Studios licensee of Chaosium, and it was a passion project. It was me hoping people fund it on Kickstarter that maybe I can make this book that's lived in my head for a decade. And I got it, and it's an indie book from top to bottom, and I love every single page of it. After it won a whole bunch of Innies, Chaosium came to me and said, "Hey, we'd like to publish the second edition of the book. Would you like to do that?" And I was like, "Sure. It's my passion project. I'd love to make a new book." And so for the second iteration of Haunted West, I took out. All right, I keep saying it like people know what this fucking thing is. No one knows what what Harlem Unbound is. It was like nearly 10 years ago now. Harlem Unbound is a Call of Cthulhu supplement gumshoe core book that focuses the Cthulhu mythos on 1920s Harlem, that gives a historical view of Harlem from inception all the way up to around 1930. Core crux of it. And then I infused the mythos, then I infused a whole bunch of actual history, then I layered a whole bunch of mythos into it, and it has the gumshoe mechanics in the book, so you don't need another book if you don't want to buy it. If you want to use the source book for Call of Cthulhu, it's a 7th edition source book for that. And in it, it has 4 scenarios and some different mythos creatures. It has some entities from potentially like Haiti and other places. And I created my own new mythos riff called the Baron in Blues for the book.
Okay.
That's first edition.
I have been waiting to ask this question the entire show because I'm a fan of Harlem Heroes. Yeah, sorry.
I like Harlem Heroes. Trademark. I'm trademarking that right now. Thank you.
What did you think of Sinners?
I fucking love Sinners. I saw it 3 times in the theater.
It is. Right. It is. It literally, when I was watching it, it reminded me of your game, and I was like, did they just rip him off completely?
I'm not going to say I think Ryan Coogler bought a copy of Harlem Unbound, but I'm saying Ryan Coogler may have seen Harlem Unbound and flipped through it. And if he wants to come and make a Harlem Unbound movie, I am here for it. I own the IP. No one else does. Come talk to me, and we can make it happen.
That sounds like a great prequel concept for Sinners. I want more Sinners. It's the best horror movie I've seen since The long time. Descent.
So you're asking, what's a horror movie? Sinners is a horror movie.
Right.
And Sinners is a horror movie because it takes a lot of time to build up characters, and it builds the humanity of everything, and then shit goes sideways with the unknown that people don't know what to deal with.
Sinners is a movie about characters who think they're in a gangster movie, and then halfway through it, they find out they're in a horror movie, and it goes, it's beautiful. Yeah. I mean, granted, it really is just a reskinned From Dusk Till Dawn, but it does everything better, like 100% better. The music's better, the characters are better, the acting's better, the story's better, the vampires are much, much cooler.
You just gave a spoiler to the whole movie right there. What if people didn't know they were vampires? We'd been alluding to it.
I mean, they advertised it as being a vampire movie. I'm not spoiling anything.
So when I recommended for Eddie to go see it, I told him not to watch any trailers and just go in, because that's
the way to do it.
That spoils everything for people.
Yeah, I actually saw the trailers, and I saw a little bit of the music scene. I was like, I don't know, that's going to be cheesy, but they pulled it off so well. No, it's not.
No, and it's phenomenal.
Yeah. So.
Oh, all right. So sorry. Harlem Unbound.
Harlem Unbound.
That's first edition. Even the cover's different. It's all very different, very succinct, very its own thing. And it's the color scheme for it, since it's very much a Kickstarter project, limited funds, but I had an incredible graphic designer and artist, Brennan Reese. It is black, white, and red. That's like the color palette for the book. Harlem Unbound second edition, which Chaosium is strictly published the book. All the actual work and content and paying writers, paying artists, and everything else was Dark Reed Studios. Chaosium paid a printer to publish the book for me. And they stock it, and they do that kind of stuff. So, the second edition has a different cover. It has additional information that was not in the first edition book, because one of the things about research and history is up until 2025, a lot of different organizations were providing more and more information that you could access yearly, and there are more people to engage with and ask historical information. And they say, "Hey, I'm happy, random internet person, to tell you this new information we found a year ago." And so I got more information, and I hired some new writers. I hired a couple new artists, and second edition, I stripped out all the Gumshoe rules because it's strictly a Call of Cthulhu source book for 7th edition with Pulp Cthulhu now, and rewrote pieces of it. Some of the scenarios have been expanded. For instance, I took out one of the scenarios from the first edition book because I'm potentially thinking of making a larger campaign for it if I ever have time, which gets further and further away every day. In second edition, to replace that, to place the information I took, we expanded information, and I also added 3 new scenarios. So you've got a Harlan-bound book that has expanded content, different cover, and I want to say 7 or 8 scenarios in that source book.
Wow.
Vastly different products.
Yeah. I wish I knew about this because I started a Mask of Nyarlathotep campaign about a year ago.
Is it the new book?
Yeah, so it's the double book from Chaosium. I also have the
Hey,
older
if you
book
look, you can find my name on it.
Oh. Yeah, so that
I helped them with the Harlem section.
Excellent. Because that section was definitely a great one to put on my players. I mean, granted, the original distance, the original edition, I think I have the third Call of Cthulhu 3rd edition version of Masks, and yeah, I'm an age, I guess. But the newer books, there's a ton more material, and yeah, the contribution of like expanding out into the Harlem section and all the other sections that they expanded upon, and kind of giving you that history background is great.
I have not read Shadow Scar yet. I see a comment in the Twitch.
Yep.
I'm going to answer for them right away. It's on my to-read list, but I'm not going to lie. My to-read list is like deep. And so that's why I started my own thing. I try to have 1 hour a day where I do sort of a books and brew, where I either have a coffee and a book and I read that for an hour, or like a beer and a book if it's later in the day. And for a while I was able to keep it up. Now it's in a weird state where my reading needs to be work focused to catch up on all the Arc Dream stuff, to put me in a space to be able to talk about all the different products in a professional level, talking about them other than, I'm a fan. Oh my God, do you see this book? Do you know this happened in this? So now I need to be able to talk about it like a real professional and not a fan.
Yeah, so speaking of that, as a game designer, what do you think is the importance of playing so many different game systems? Because I see on your Blue Sky, you know, you're starting to plot out a new campaign for your group, and how many I saw how many, you know, various systems you were pulling out and be like, it might run for this. Oh, I remember this. This is good. I might run this, and then finally landing on Shadowrun. But do you think it's important for game designers to kind of like always look at other systems and kind of consume them?
Absolutely. Because the one thing that you don't want to do is get static in what you view. And I don't mean just simply look at new games that come. You need to go back and like review old games, even games that you haven't looked at in a decade or two, because their mechanics and genius that went into every single game that's ever made. I can't stress enough, regardless of if you like a system, if you like the game, if you like the person. Although if they have horrible political views that hate on other people, you should kick those fuckers out. But the game itself is unbelievably difficult to make, publish, and produce. So each game that you see is a small miracle that occurred. And so if nothing else, from the sheer amount of respect you should have for creative, to like read it and see what they do. From a game designer perspective, right now, even reading through second edition Shadowrun, there are some cool mechanics in there that spark my brain for something that I'm trying to make for Gamehole Con. So I won't use their mechanics, but it gives me an idea of something I could do to riff on that I was trying to do before. And that's a game that's 30, 40 years old. And it's a mechanic that the new edition of Shadowruns don't use.
Oh, shut up about
I don't know
that.
why. It's beautiful.
Don't tell
And-
it's 30 or 40 years old. You're making me feel old.
I mean, into being 50. And the same thing for like Castle Falkenstein. Falkenstein has like this great card game thing in it that's never no one ever talks about. Like
Yeah.
there's so many great things there that we've moved past. And I know a lot of people now want games that are less crunch, that are almost no rolls or no mechanics. That's not how I play and not the game I want.
That's not what I want out of a game.
Yeah.
Yeah. At that point, we're not really role playing so much. We're just improv and acting, which is cool, but it's not the thing that I look for in a role playing game.
It removes the game aspect of it.
Do you think when you do get into reading into other game systems that are you worried about, like, I guess, losing track of what system you're borrowing from and then introducing it and people saying, oh yeah, this is from yada yada game and you're borrowing it from this? And
So I don't borrow anything from any game. I'm gonna make that just a flat thing,
right.
because it's someone that writes a lot of historical games that has very historical accuracy. People frequently look for ways to try to, like, I'm not going to say attacking on social media, but I've been attacked on social media and they try to come. So I'm going to make a flat statement. I don't borrow anything from anything.
Right.
I take inspiration from things to create my own thing.
Okay.
I'm being very clear and succinct in that word choice for a reason.
Makes sense. Because I know with the copyright system, there's game mechanics cannot be copyrighted. So,
yeah, but it's also just a bag of dicks to do that to somebody. That's bad.
Well, if you think about it, like, with real world science, the math that was done prior was done by someone else, but you are using that math to come up with your own calculations and your own hypothesis and your own theorems around producing something even better, right? So you're always going on the shoulders of giants because you have the historical reference to pull from, right? I don't know. So do you also think that players and GMs should also dive into different systems and try to, like, go outside the box or their universe? Because I mean, one thing that I often see is especially with Dungeons and Dragons players, they want to convert everything into Dungeons and Dragons, and not really experimenting with other systems.
Yes, and I don't say that simply because I don't write D&D games.
Mm-hmm.
But so you can have a systemless way that you approach things, and that's great in concept. But if you create a game, the game that you've created is frequently associated with a system that you're using for it. And sometimes, frequently, there's a lot of overlap between those two and they flow into each other. And for instance, even when I talk about the Ouroboros system, which is my system I made West, I built one version of it specifically for Haunted West. At Gamehole Con, I'm running a Gamehole Con special scenario, Conan without. So it's my sword and sorcery game. So I'm taking the base core mechanics from the Ouroboros system, and then I'm changing it with specific sword and sorcery mechanics I'm layering on top of it to make it a sword. So the underlying mechanics are there, but I'm changing it to fit the genre and the game I'm trying to. Does that make sense?
Yeah, completely, right? So for me,
100%.
I if I want fantasy, it's usually D&D, right? If I want gritty fantasy, Warhammer Fantasy role playing. If I want space opera, Traveler. If I want Cyberpunk 2020. So I think that's kind of I don't know if it's more of an older generation of gamers who experiment with the different games, because maybe it was, when we were growing up, well, if you want sci-fi, only this game company is making sci-fi games, so you have to buy that game, that particular game system, right? If you want horror, you have to buy Call of Cthulhu. If you want fantasy, so I don't know if it's just a bias from me growing up or my life experience through gaming that I've had to go to different game systems and try their systems because, back in the day, if you were too similar to Dungeons and Dragons, TSR would go after you.
So I think it's good simply because it gives you more exposure to different games, different mechanics, and it has you think about everything flows. Now, having said that, at the same time, we can even go back to old school where you're talking about how hard people would call it. Dungeons and Dragons, of course, and went and made Ravenloft, which is a horror game, and that has a different feel to it than a horror game that Chaosium would do, because the mechanics are different. Like in Ravenloft, I could be a level 10 rogue running around with 50 hit points, and I get punched by a vampire 6 or 7 times, and I may have still escaped. In Call of Cthulhu, I'm a professor with 10 hit points, and I get bit by a large rat. I'm barely moving. Much less if I get punched by a vampire.
Yes.
That's mechanics. That's purely what that is. That's not the great adventure. That's not anything else. That's mechanics.
Right. Yeah.
Mechanics. I tend to agree. The more exposure you get to games and different systems and how they run things, the better you are able to cover the same situations, either if you don't like the way your current game system is doing it, or if you're doing it yourself, you have more inspiration to draw from. But yeah, it's like anything else in the world. Expose yourself to as much crap as you can. It's going to make your experience better, no matter what you're doing.
And for instance, I am a huge proponent for old school Palladium riffs. It is broken as fuck, and I love every bit of it.
It's truly broken. I love the concept of riffs. I hate Symbiota's business ethic, if you want to call it that.
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about mechanics. Is where I'm stopping my talk there.
Yeah, mechanically, I very much enjoyed using riffs to run Robotech. I think everybody did, and vice versa. From Palladium mechanics, I actually really liked the recon system. It wasn't riffs, but it was like a prototype for it.
Well, I recently ran a 9-player Rifts game for people that had never played Rifts, and the party ranged from a demigod Russian magic smith who was like all MDC, all the way down to a gunfighter who just had like an awesome rifle. Like that was their party range, and to have them all play on the same battlefield, and have people realize that the MDC character is awesome as shit. But that MDC character has no range. He's like DPSing people right up close, one at a time. They're fighting the coalition, a bunch of Nazi fucks with like super tanks. And the only way that character can reach the coalition is if they work as a team to help their super fighter get there. While at the same time, they're dealing with the internal town politics where they're like a feline cat gambler is trying to make friends with the sheriff, so the sheriff will help them do something else they need to do. Killer. So it's playing with all those different elements. It uses the mechanics of that's another percentile system, and playing with everything all at once. So it's a bunch of different things playing, introducing people to, and showing them that regardless of what your power level is, you're relevant in the scenario from what you can do, and mechanics can reinforce that relevance if you play into your character.
Right.
Truth.
So what you just said was great, but the only thing that I kept on thinking of was, did you just say 9-player group?
I did.
Yeah, I heard that as well and kind of flinched.
Yeah.
So in college...
You're a better man than I am, Gunga Din.
In college, I ran a fortnightly Vampire Dark Ages game that had 16 players average.
Holy cow.
It went up to like 20, and occasionally it would dip down to like around 12, but it was an average of 16 for about a year and a half.
All at the same table.
Yep. Well, sometimes at the table, sometimes on the second floor place, and I had to get up on the second floor, and I would run down to like all 16 players preaching from the mound, so that was pretty fun.
You are far more energetic than I am.
It's because I've been GMing since I was like 7. So it's something that I am just in. I don't want to say I'm good. Other people would say I'm great, but I would say that I am fair and I have a lot of versatility, and I'm not afraid. It's a lot of, if you want to do something, I am all for you as a ever the fuck you want to do, but I am a staunch believer in consequences. Like, if we're playing a fantasy game, you go and meet the king, you're a bunch of badass heroes, you could kill the king and potentially escape. Awesome. You should never come back to that kingdom if they love that king, because they will have bounties out for your ass, and they'll see you and they'll try to kill you. But hey, you killed the king and you got away with it. Awesome.
Good for you.
You cut off all those adventures.
Yeah, I mean, for me to handle that many players, I remember one time I went to, I kind of posted, hey, I'm going to run a Cyberpunk game at this local game store. So I was like, oh, excited. And I've tried to run Cyberpunk at various cons, and back in the 90s, Cyberpunk was not a con game, at least in the region where I was from, because many times I would have no table. Even though tickets were sold, no one showed up. So I was kind of looking forward to see who's going to be playing at this store. And I walk into the room, and there are 12 players crammed into this one little room. I'm like, oh my god, how am I going to deal with all these 12 players? So I think the first thing I did was, okay, all these players, some of them haven't played Cyberpunk, that's fine. I'm going to show them how I run my Cyberpunk, and I have a feeling I'm going to cull this group. Which, of course, I did, because one of the players was like immediately, because cops showed up, and cops were basically telling him on the ground. One of the players was like, no, screw that. I'm going to fight the NCPD. Like, okay, here we go. And that player died immediately.
That's where Session Zero comes into play.
Yeah, and then the rest of the group was like, some of them started joining in with that player. Of course, they got gunned down. And anyways, after that whole scenario of like, hey, this is Cyberpunk, because I think there was not a lot of people who've ever played it. The following week, I was down to 4 players, so I was like, okay, this is more manageable. Now that they understand, the chaos that they're going to bring and the repercussions of your players' actions, which I think is one of the things that, in my opinion, like Cyberpunk, and there's also a few other game systems that really present players with repercussions, and that you are not invincible like a Dungeons and Dragons game. So I think that's a hard lesson for players to learn, like, oh, I should run away. Yeah, you should. Which I think old school AD&D kind of had that mentality, is like, all right, let's roll on the random table. Oh, you're fighting an ancient blue dragon at first level. What do you guys do? Run the hell away.
Hate the game for the next 5 years.
Yeah, or that.
That's because there are people developing their GMing skills.
Yeah.
GMing is an art.
It is.
Because it's part knowing what players want, being able to give that to them, but also at the same time being able to challenge them and knowing how much of a challenge that table can take. And it's hard to do.
Definitely. So, as a game designer as well as a CEO of a game company, what do you think the future has in store for tabletop role-playing game?
As I am daily watching the impact of tariffs, because I have Darker Hue Project 003 that I'm working on and noodling, and I'm trying to see what it would potentially be. If it would be like an actual physical book I love to print and have offset print, or if it would be just a fully digital book. I can already say right now, companies are going out of business because they can't take the raise in prices. They can't deal with the uncertainty of if they have a project shipped. Yeah. And we're in a weird place where companies are now actively raise the cost of books, which they should have because the cost of books hasn't changed in like 20, 30 years. And part of that is because D&D has mass-produced books for their profit to keep books at a very certain price base. So which primarily impacts and negatively impacts independent and smaller companies. Because if D&D is not charging more, people want to buy more D&D books, which means this other company can't make their book, can't pay people to do the work, which takes longer to make books until eventually they can't make books and they go out of business.
Right.
So I think it's going to be rough, to put it nicely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you.
I mean,
this is not an environment that is going to promote physical media. Like this environment is doing everything it can to kill physical media,
which is a shame.
Yeah.
Because a lot of gamers love a book. Like owning that physical book, there's a joy in it when it shows up at your house. When you're flipping through it, there's
a way it smells, the heft of it in your hand, the feel of the paper. It's very tactile. It's books are fantastic. I love books so much.
Yeah, I think that question was, I guess, my naivety of the real world struggles that game companies are definitely going through, especially from the tariff point. The reality of the world right now, very unstable for our industry and our hobby. More
like I said before, you can ask me anything you want, and if I know about it, this is something I know a little bit about, and I'm learning and I'm reading more and more because it directly impacts my work at Arc Dream now.
Yep. As
production person, because I need to keep on top of the constant change of tariffs, and the tariffs are changing like daily, essentially, at the whim of a madman.
Yeah.
Preach to the choir, my friend. So I guess. So let me dig into the question. So my thinking is, as being a older gamer, and I know you've been there, is for me seeing the gaming industry at this point is I'm recalling back with the D20 phrase, right? And the bloat that kind of did to the industry. Do you see that also impacting kind of the gaming industry? I mean, granted, COVID was kind of this golden age of role-playing games that, everyone had to be online, and guess what? What are you going to do online? Well, I can doom scroll, or I can find a hobby to distract me, right? From the plague that is currently engulfing us. And I think a lot of people turn towards online role-playing games, right? And the virtual.
It was a boom for actual plays, definitely.
Yeah. So now that's kind of pushed gaming back into the limelight, and more people are playing. Do you see that the game industry might become too bloated? Because the other thing that I think is kind of new from 20 years ago is the self-publishing, right? And the ease of how a creator can get to market with their product, and whether or not that's causing more of a bloat. As I said, like back in the D20 when the SDR hit the scene, the amount of product that was produced, and just trying to shift through that and see what is good and what is bad. Do you see that kind of as a bit of a challenge as well?
I don't think we're going to have a bloat, because I think it's the exact opposite, actually. Because part of the problem now is, like we're saying, people like physical media. And so if you're making a project that's purely digital, you're going to charge less for it. People aren't as inclined to buy it as they would be a physical book, because they can't take pictures of it. They can't put it on social media. Mm-hmm. And as someone that was able to make, because I was an indie publisher, that I managed to publish my own book from all the different channels. I used social media. I used like Twitter. I used all the other social media sites at the time to help promote and push common bound for me to be able to make the book happen, and I got enough people to support it because of all those different mechanisms in place, and I could ship it out because it was reasonably priced and everything else. Now we're at a point where Twitter is a clusterfuck and fire that you shouldn't be on. I've been off of it for over a year now, and I'm on Blue Sky, but Blue Sky doesn't have the same engagement level that Twitter has. But even Twitter now has pretty much stopped the engagement level unless you pay a fucktard your money to be able to like use their algorithms, which they've broken specifically so you can't get the same amount of engagement. And then they've actively suppressed anything that is inclusive or diversive additionally to that. So a lot of the games I would want to go and support and I want to be successful can't be because they have no way to reach people outside of their own small ecosystem. And so without that outreach, independent gamers can't really publish books. They can't make anything of success. And I can't stress how much work it takes to make a book. It takes thousands upon thousands of hours to make a role-playing game. And if you're not going to make any money for it, which is assumed because you're making a role-playing game, but if you're not going to get people to engage with you and talk about how much they love this thing that you did, or to tell you that, hey, I went out, I played it, I showed some other people, you're not getting positive reinforcement. You're not getting financial reinforcement. You're probably getting a lot of negative input and the stress that it puts on you, your family, your friends, and everyone else for you to do this. It breaks a lot of people, and there's no point in doing it. Like love and passion get you so far, and then reality and banality, like a changeling game, pulls you down.
Right. Yeah, I mean that's and Derek can probably agree to this, but you know, as a person who's maintained a Cyberpunk site for the past few decades, me creating the various online tools to help players run games, you have the requests from the populace, oh, why don't you add more, right? Why don't you add descriptions, do this and that? And I'm like, no, you should be going out and buying those products, and my tools are there to enhance your game, but you still should be supporting the company, because if you're not supporting the company, then they're gonna basically die, and we no longer have any new product from these companies.
I'm not here as much lore, as many rules, as much gadgetry as I put on my site. I'm not going to, with the exception of Ultra Chrome, which is just a illustrated version of Andrew James's Cyberpunk ref book from Node 16. With the exception of Ultra Chrome, I am not there to reprint anything from the books. Ultra Chrome and the character creation guide, just because having all the life paths in one place is very convenient. Other than those two exceptions. But yeah, no, I'm not here to reprint all the guns and their entire descriptions, and like I'm not going to do that for stuff that already exists that you can go out and look at. I'm going to do that for stuff that I'm creating that you can add to your game.
Yeah, and I also think that the digital market is more prone to piracy, right? And
Yes.
ease of transmitting that stuff. And you know, especially as a kid, growing up in a lower income, you might be more appealed to do that piracy because it's expensive to buy certain products, but there's that. But then you get into the people who can afford it doing the same thing, and if you like the game, you really should be contributing to the authors and to the writers, because if you're not, those writers are going to go away because they have to go out, and we kind of saw it with Cyberpunk. Altar Sorian was not making enough for Mike and his family, so he had to move on into the gaming industry and working for Microsoft and earning a better living because he needed to pay the bills, right?
So have you had a chance to meet Mike in person?
I've met Mike once. We want to get him online and an interview. Derek has yet to meet him.
I know I have not met him. It's something I've wanted to do for pretty much since 1989, but I don't go to I don't go to gaming conventions. I live in Arkansas now, and nothing worthwhile comes to Arkansas. They advertise comic book conventions here, and they don't ever mention any artists or writers. It's just like fucking cosplayers and YouTubers and like third tier fucking actors and shit. Pro
I
wrestling.
think
now
that-
I'm envisioning like a big tent surrounded by sand and desert. They have like cutouts of Mark Hamill as Luke Skywalker and a bunch of other things, and random comics in like dollar bins. That's what I've envisioned now from what you're describing.
If they still had dollar bins, that would be great. I'd still go to comic book conventions, but no, it's they've stopped being about comics, and they stopped being about comics sometime in the 90s. I've said it before. With my last straw, I used to go to the Chicago Comic Con on a yearly basis. That was my big expenditure for the year. That was my own personal Christmas to myself. And then I started getting disillusioned with it. And then in like 1993, 94, I think that was my last one. I'm walking around, and Penthouse, Playboy, and Hustler all had booths, as did a couple of porno companies. And they're all giving out freaking like trading cards. And I'm wandering around the convention, and all over the floor are these like pornographic, like hardcore pornographic trading cards just littered all over the floor.
Sounds like Las
And,
Vegas.
Children are walking on them, and I'm just like, I'm not a prude, but
of the industry, of that industry, as long as it's legalized, and sex workers, as long as I want sex workers to have health care, because it is an industry and they should have full benefits and rights that everyone else does. That sounds awesome, but at the same time, maybe not a comic convention. It seems to lose something.
Right. Like, I'm not a
unless
prude
they're
at all.
cosplay, and then that'd be awesome.
Yeah, that would be like that would be pretty awesome. But yeah, I'm not a prude at all. I support sex work.
But there's a time and a place for
I'm
everything.
not in a place that is supposed to be family friendly. And I think comic book conventions, regardless of my personal taste in ultraviolence and all that, I think the convention itself should be presented as family friendly. If they can't walk down the hall without looking down and seeing like literal hardcore pornography, not just nudies, but hardcore pornography.
I have to
What the
assume
hell?
they have like little black bars over them. And for me, it goes to a larger discussion that America is too accepting of violence than they are.
Oh, there were black bars.
love.
There was full penetration right on the
Jesus. This is at
That's
the
not cool,
Comic
because
Con?
then you're stopping those guys from making
at
money
a
for
comic
selling their
book
product.
convention. Like I said, it was the last time I went. I think I've been to like a Kansas City convention twice since then, but that's about it. I just stopped caring.
I think the 20-year-old me would like it, but
Yeah, no,
So,
the 16-year-old me would have loved that shit.
I'm pulling us back to the gaming. So I started going to Gen Con for about a decade consistently until COVID hit, and I stopped. But at one of those Gen Cons, I got to meet Mike. And one of the the most glorious things I've heard was Mike telling me how much he loved it. I've been successful. Everything else is irrelevant at this point on.
Nice.
And he was super nice. And we actually even got Mike on John to talk about the Transformers movie from back in the late 80s.
You got the touch, baby.
yeah,
I actually own that soundtrack on vinyl.
Because, well, you should. I own some Bowie on vinyl.
Nice. Very nice.
yeah, actually, Mike a couple times at a convention up in Boston area, Massachusetts. He was going there 2013-ish area, so it was right around the time the Cyberpunk trailer came, and that was the first time I got to meet him. Yeah, he's a friendly guy, but also you also have that fanboy type of attitude when you see him. You're like, oh, man, I don't want to bug him, especially now with 2077, and he is now a hot commodity.
Yeah.
And
my interactions. Go ahead. Sorry.
And I think that's kind of one of the reasons why I kind of like refrain from like doing too much approach, because I'm like, I don't want to be that nerd of. I think we've all met those nerds who will just go off on a tangent of, oh yeah, back in my day I had a fixer that had this ability, and he was had all the cyberware, and
All right, I'm gonna defend that nerd because I am nowhere near Mike's level, but I've had people come up to me and do that, and it's less about them being a nerd. It's more about me being socially awkward and not knowing what to do with positive praise and reinforcement.
Right. Yeah.
Amen to that.
Yeah. Well, we're all on that little spectrum that maybe not as full spectrum, but we're definitely on that area.
We're all
like
geeks.
I can take negative feedback all day and like dish it back, but like positive reinforcement, I don't know what to do. That's
I cannot accept praise. I never feel like I deserve it. I get real awkward when somebody says something nice to me because it's such a rare event.
Yeah.
My interactions with Mike have been very brief, but they've been important to me. In one, he endorsed my site itself, and in another, he specifically endorsed my Interlock Unlimited rewrite.
Awesome.
And there's been a couple of other small interactions where he's been really cool towards me. I've never had a negative one. Mike is an awesome dude. I would love to thank him personally for the impact he's had on my life.
So Chris, when he says he endorsed his site, he told CDPR about Derek's site.
Incredible.
And within a day, the site crashed because of the amount of traffic that was going to it.
Because he's a great person.
Like they hit it so hard that I had to my host kicked me off. They thought I was running some kind of weird bullshit. I don't know, but it took me 6 months to find a new host.
I have never been to PAX Unplugged. I used to go to Gen Con, but since COVID, I haven't gone back. I went back 1 year during COVID to get an award for Haunted West, but then I haven't gone back. Gen Con's not really in the cards anymore because it's a big convention, and I used to really vibe with big conventions, but since COVID is in remission, finger quotes, I don't want to be in huge crowds like that. So I'm aiming for smaller conventions. Like I'm going to Gamehole because they're having me on special guests when I'm going there. PAX Unplugged, I have buddies that go there every year, and I keep thinking about it. So I may have tried that based on the size and when I hear about it, but I'm not sure yet.
So, as a Call of Cthulhu or a Cthulhu fan, do you go to Necronomicon?
I do not, because they've never asked me to come out.
Oh, you have to be invited.
So,
it helps.
You know what? Yeah. As an established Call of Cthulhu writer that made a monumental supplement / core rulebook for the genre of Cthulhu, I want an invitation from Necronomicon before I come out.
Well, I think the problem with Necronomicon...
That's me being an asshole, but it's also me thinking, you know what?
I think the perception of Necronomicon is that it's really not a gaming convention. It's more of a writer in the genre as opposed to game system. Now, granted, Chaosium is definitely there, and there are probably one or two other gaming vendors there, and there is a floor dedicated toward gaming, but it's more lectures towards the genre of the weird and cosmic horror. I just didn't know if you were.
But I will also say that I've been brought up to universities to be a speaker before because of the work that I've done on Bound. Harlem Bound and Haunted West are both in various museums. There's a whole bunch of Chris could like pat
Nice.
himself on the back, shit that I'm trying not to do because. All right, so for listeners that are curious, I admittedly now have had a beer and I'm drinking like heavily into a very four-finger pour of a very good whiskey right now. So maybe I'm being a little too free, but you know what? I like it, so I don't care. Sorry, you're saying.
Yeah.
All right, so now that we've got you good and liquored up, tell us about Night City 2045. What can you share with us?
I can say with absolute certainty that I made the Deadwoods, which cowboy themed gang in it, that I love. Go figure. I love nomads, and I make a Western book. I made a gang that's full of cowboys. And I think I can probably officially say that I wrote the Glen and South Night City. And I pulled heavily on inspiration from 2020.
Oh.
That's beautiful.
And there's not a lot of information for 2020 around the Glen.
No, it was the Glen, Haywood, North Oak. They were all very underdeveloped in the game books. Really,
there's at least
anything
one character I made in the Glen that I named specifically for my daughter.
Aww.
Oh, beautiful!
Immortalized in Cyberpunk. That's awesome.
I could talk about any other books I've written if you want, because those are all published. But I'm hesitant to give out too much. I think alcohol. Jay put out a primer for 2045 that's like around 10 or 15 pages.
Yep.
And it touches on a lot of different things. What I do want to talk about while we have a couple minutes is our Telestorian themselves are great to work with, because one of the things is I've talked about how I played Shadowrun is like my primary introduction to Cyberpunk. And then 2077 and then Cyberpunk Red is how I got into it. And I'm going back and I'm reading 2020. What they do for teams of creatives when they come in is they provide. So, all right, if you want to get any books you don't have, at least digitally, is to get put on a project and they'll give you all the digital books for like 2020. Just saying. So you can read and start researching.
Nice. Yes.
But they provide you those and they create a lore document essentially, because there's so much incredible cyberpunk lore that they want you to have reference points to work from, so that the things that you start creating aren't necessarily out of the ball for what they're looking for.
Right.
And for me, as more of probably a heavy,
I would love to see that too.
Talk to Jay. Maybe Jay will hook you up. Maybe they won't. I'm not going to say one way or the other. But I'm not going to say that it's not 45 pages, because it got larger as we worked on the project.
Right.
Yeah, 45 pages. Lore, beautiful. Like, I loved it. I read it from like top to bottom as soon as they sent it to make sure I understood what they're looking for. And as I have more of a pulp vibe that I go for, I was sort of like pushing some of the tech level. And it was great to get feedback from Jay, because Jay was like, that's awesome, but we can't use that because this is funking like there's a tech level that we want to go for in 2045 versus 2077. And I got to have a conversation with them about those key differences.
Right. Yeah, so I think we're good, because Rob Barefoot, I think, would have chimed in. So he's not listening right now, so that's kind of a good thing.
Flying in under the radar.
And
one of the things a lot of the times he will show up in the chat just to.
Well, usually with like James and Jay, right? He will chime in, being like, "Yeah, you shouldn't say that. Oh, why'd you tell that?"
He's sitting in the corner, you know, whittling on a sharp stick, just giving us the stink eye. We love Rob.
He's the one who calls in the Arasaka strike team.
He's also the one that coordinates all our interviews with the current RTAL staff. So yeah, we're very
appreciative of him.
That's awesome.
Rob, don't burn us.
I wouldn't tell you anything that you shouldn't know, but I can highlight how awesome it is to work for them and the things they do to make it easier for writers that aren't necessarily as familiar with their setting and world, because they go out of their way to make it feel warm and inviting. And for me, a big part of my process is I'd rather have a lot of early initial conversations with whoever it is about what they want. So then when I turn in a draft, there are fewer red lines that they have to deal with and fewer red lines I have to fix.
Right. Yeah, I mean, for the dozen worked with, and not only writers but artists who worked with our Talsorian, and their stance has always been stellar, right? They loved
Yeah,
working with the company, working with Mike, working with Lisa, and how much they say it's not a company, family.
yeah. Even the ones who've had a falling out with the company itself have nothing but praise for their experiences and times working with our Talsorian. Like, and everyone we've talked to, every single one without fail, has talked about how it was almost more like working with family uh, than it was like just a job.
So much so that like even the cover of the Hope Reborn, I
Yeah,
talked to Jay and I worked with Jay and I got to help shape how Grace is supposed to look. And so if you know
nice.
your Cyberpunk, you may know who I gave them inspiration from to pull from for Grace. It's different than what Jay originally envisioned, but I sort of explained my case and what I was going for. It's like, oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, I was in a game again at the same convention that Mike was showing at, and as a party, one of the players played Grace, played the whole crew back. I think Red just came out, so like the core book, so even the adventures hadn't come out, and we did a game for Forlorn Hope. Um, but yeah, that seeing that scene and being in that game was, oh yeah, I remember that game, and kind of it kind of looked like that, or that's what I envisioned in my head for it. So
So do you want the spoiler of who the inspiration is?
sure,
Have you seen Strange Days?
yes,
Yeah, that's that mace. That would have been my that was what I was thinking. Just staring at the picture, like
So
that's
I provided images of Angela Bassett from Strange Days and from when Tina Turner.
yep,
that will always be my favorite role that Angela Bassett ever plays. And I love Angela Bassett. I love everything she's ever done.
Yeah,
But that role in
amazing.
particular, she was so fucking badass.
another
She should have been Storm in the original
She
X-Men
should have
movies.
been Storm.
How they were
She
supposed to have done
should have. If they weren't going to give her Storm, they should have given her Misty Knight.
Storm. I'm sorry. So much. So still cursing to this day about that.
yeah.
Yeah, Halle Berry was not appropriate for the role.
The choice.
Yeah, Halle
I,
Berry's perversion. Even though I love Halle Berry as an actress, Storm.
she's too quiet for Storm.
Yeah,
She's just too quiet.
Storm was definitely
Storm.
the punk, the not gonna tolerate shit type of attitude.
Yeah. I mean, she's an African goddess. She
Yes!
needs to be loud and bombastic. Like she
It
commands
could
the
be that we're
weather.
all influenced by the '90s cartoon, but still, it's
No, I'm influenced by the '80s Claremont run. That's where I get my Storm love from. Where even without powers, she was leading the X-Men.
Bruce Claremont,
And,
the angry narrator. I love it. All right, so I perfectly shifted us back to this comic talk in our last couple minutes for a very specific reason.
Yes, sir.
Before we got on air, we were having a talk about Watchmen, and I want to finish this talk before we end.
all right.
I had forgot. I'm drinking, but I have not forgotten. I'm just.
The changing shift. We were talking a little bit about Watchmen prior to broadcasting, so this is the tail end of that
Specifically, we were
discussion.
talking about the end of it in the movie, in the Snyder movie, versus the end of it in the comic books. I don't know if that's where you're going, but yeah.
It's part of it. Why don't you dig the giant squid versus like
I just thought it was silly. Like it just looks silly to me.
Oh, you go.
I mean, it was fine in the movie or in the comic, and I liked seeing him in the HBO series. But like as a whole, I don't know. I really loved the side story of the artists who were working on it. I thought that was fantastic. like everything about their very brief story arc was intriguing to me. But like the final monster just looked goofy as hell to me. It's just always going to look goofy to me.
Huh.
Everything else in the book was like, regardless of the power levels of like Dr. Manhattan, everything else in the book was very gritty and realistic, and it was kind of starting that whole new trend of like, if not starting it, certainly on the forefront. And then at the end of the book of this, you have something that looks like it plopped out of a 50s sci-fi film. It just didn't work for me.
Okay. All right, I can understand that. I thought it was like the concept itself, but if you're just talking about the actual visual aesthetics, that I can like.
Oh yeah, no, it's totally the visual. It's totally the visual. I don't know what I would want it to look like, but it wasn't that. Ideally, I'd want it to look like The Thing from the John Carpenter film, but that's me just wanting perfection.
I'd want some sort of like Cthulhian looking thing myself, if I had my druthers.
Sure, like an unspeakable horror that you feel uncomfortable looking at it.
Sorry if I derailed your last couple minutes with that. I was just really curious. I want to know.
Our show is based on ranting,
Yes.
so you're just fine.
And if you want to get into comics, Derek is definitely the guy. Yeah, so do you have any questions for us now that we're in the last few minutes?
I will not ask you the most awkward of awkward questions, although it's tempting, but I won't do that. Instead, what is your second favorite role in Cyberpunk and why?
So for me, my favorite
Second
role,
favorite.
Yeah, I know. My favorite, just to give audience background and some context. So my favorite role is Fixer. So the second favorite role is Netrunner. The reason why I love Netrunner, and this was before I got into IT, was reading Rach Barsmos's Guide to the Net. And the great work that Ed Bolme did voicing Rach's voice. Just going through that whole book was just like mind expanding. Like, yes, I want to live in this world of the net, and hacking data forts. But I also know that net running is not one of the game mechanics that people enjoy. Cyberpunk. But yes, that's my secondary favorite.
Anybody who's listened to me talk about Cyberpunk, or anybody who's been to my site, is not going to be surprised at all when I say that my first favorite role is Nomads through and through. My second favorite, especially to run other people when I'm the GM, is Cops. Now I tend to run, I'm cheating because I tend to run Interlocked Unlimited as opposed to Rules as Written anymore, where like the authority, the cop role is vastly different. And you can take multiple roles very easily. But I love noir type games, and like running detectives, even if they're not actually cops, just running like undercover or private investigators, anything like that. I love those kind of games. The solve the mystery, deal with the street level back alley garbage. Yeah, I love me some cop or private investigator type games. That's my second favorite.
Awesome.
So what's your second favorite after Nomad?
The Techie. It's close. Like, it was either Rock or Techie. Today it's Techie. If you ask me tomorrow, it'll probably be Rock.
Oh, Roll.
To me,
it's pretty rare that somebody says Techie, because they didn't get techies and medtechs didn't get their own source book. And I
Yeah.
still think that was a mistake. One of these days, I'm going to write the techie source book. It's just going to happen.
Yeah, my least favorite role is Rockable. Don't know why.
Oh, I love it.
I've run some Rocker Boy campaigns. They're
Yeah.
difficult. They're difficult to run outside a game that revolves around them.
Right.
Yeah,
But the same can
they're
be
all
said
swagger.
for cops.
That's about
really. Yeah, they're all pure ego-driven narcissism, which is awesome in their own right. I don't know. Like rockers as musicians are really, because then you've got to deal with the rest of their band. Rockers as political activists, those are great. You can insert those into pretty much any campaign.
So I actually ran a Star Wars game. Then the entire party was just like a rock band. And it's sort of
nice.
bouncing around the galaxy, playing gigs, kind of doing some on occasion.
Same song.
It was definitely more of a Looney Tunes vibe to it, though.
I can imagine.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, so we're at time, so I want to thank you, Chris, for joining us. I loved the conversation we had. Granted, it wasn't always Cyberpunk, but I think, from a tabletop point of view,
care.
yeah, I know we don't care, right? It's all geekdom and nerdom. That's kind of
My middle name is Tangent, so I think you should
well, that's funny because both of us have the middle name.
A little bit.
So if you want to stick around, we can continue to chat after this. But yeah, we're at our 2-hour mark, so I'm afraid we have to end. And listening in.
Appreciate y'all having me on. And once again, I want to take my last minute to say, if you don't own Cyberpunk or you haven't bought any Tolosorian games, you should change that immediately and then go buy it. And then on Blue Sky, send me a picture of what you bought.
Yeah, and go buy Haunted West as well as Harlem Unbound.
I guess I should promote myself, huh? Yeah.
Nah, we're here to promote you, so you don't have to.
Yeah, and check out darkerhuestudios.com, where you can find all of Chris's stuff. And definitely I'm looking forward to what you have coming out next. Also, thank you for your service. I don't know if I mentioned that before, but any veteran.
That's okay. It's always awkward with that one because
well,
so it was awkward before. Now in 2025, I don't know what to do with it. So thank you.
You're a good man for doing it, and contributing to experiment created century. So, anyways,
I did dress up as Charlie Brown one year for my daughter for Halloween. Since you I'm just putting that out there for people.
Right. So, thank you everyone for joining us. I am Cybersmiley. You can check out my site that is dedicated towards Cyberpunk 2020 as well as Cyberpunk Red. I have a bunch of online utilities for it. It's cybersmiley.net. There is no ending E in my Cybersmiley because I want to be different and dyslexic. And I also have
autocorrect hates you, by the way.
Yeah, I'm sure it does. My autocorrect hates my name too. Also, I have a Discord channel, bunch of different Cyberpunk channels out there that you can join, as well as a way to contact me for my site and also post any bugs or enhancements you'd like to see. I am also on Cybernation Uncensored's Discord, so go check that out. We have our own channel there for the Forlorn Dopes. I'm on a ton of other Discord servers around Cyberpunk. I don't think I'm on all of them, but I try to do my best to.
All the ones we found so far.
Yeah, all the ones I can find. Same goes with Reddit, so any Cyberpunk Reddits I try to join as soon as possible, so I'm also there. So if you do Cybersmiley, good chance you're going to be pinging me. Also, and as I've mentioned recently, I've joined Blue Sky, trying to dip my toe back into the whole social media zone because I am not on Facebook, I am not on Twitter, and I am not on Instagram or any of those uh, platforms, as it were. So, over to you, Derek.
All right, I am Derek Bernier, aka Wisdom000, which is the 000 part is really just the amount of wisdom I actually have. I run Data Fortress 2020, the largest, most comprehensive Cyberpunk 2020 site out there. In addition to putting out just a ton of material myself, and I'm going to toot my own horn and say I a lot of material. I also host the Data Fortress archives, 2020 archives, which are very soon to be just the Cyberpunk archives, as I'm getting ready to add like 600 files to it. I'm just trying to get the permission from a very small group of people at this point. So yeah, expect an update to the archives as well as the links page. In addition to my site, you can find me on Facebook, where I own the Data Fortress 2020 group, and I mod or admin the Cyberpunk 2020 group, as well as the Cyber Nation Uncensored. You can find me on Discord, in most of the same places you can find Cyber Smiley here. You can find me on Reddit at any of the Cyberpunk based threads, or whatever they call them. I'm on Blue Sky. You can find me there. By all means, reach out to us. We love hearing from you. We want your criticisms, your suggestions, your complaints, your praise, whatever information you want to send to us. If you have an in on any artists or writers that you think we should interview, by all means, share that with us. Like I said, we love to hear from you. We love to talk Cyberpunk with anybody who will listen. We'd like to thank Rob Mulligan and Cybernation Uncensored for hosting us. And once again, we'd like to thank Chris Spivey. Chris, you are always welcome on the show. Please come back. And we will definitely be keeping in touch and keeping an eye on your works.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody, for listening, and we'll see you starting next month.
Yeah, beginning the first Wednesday next month.
Yeah.
I think we have another interview.
October.
We have a bunch of interviews, I think, set up for the year, so I don't know if we're going to be able to do the...
Do what?
Well,
I was just going to say we should be booked out on interviews for, like, I think the rest of the year.
Yeah, but I really want to do a solo play.
Yeah, I do too.
I really am digging it.
Artel keeps sending us preview copies of this, but they do it like 2 weeks before, so everybody else has already put out previews, and then we have a guest, and we never get around to.
Yeah,
but yeah, we very desperately want
people
to
love
talk
to hear
about
our
solo.
opinion.
Yeah, they do. You can tell by all the audience members we have.
Hey,
each and every one of you whom we appreciate from the deepest bowels of our hearts. We're not criticizing you as much as our own.
The rest of the site.
Yeah,
you do it for the love of the game.
Exactly.
We do it for the love of the game. 100%. We interview you guys because we think you should be interviewed. You've worked on our favorite product line.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's in addition. I was talking. I don't remember who I was talking. It probably was just the last podcast. But with the archive, in addition, and the show, I really think we're at this point we're basically the cyberpunk historians of the franchise. We are like the museum curators here. We want everyone to get the full experience and understand the work and the creations.
People do the in-game lore. outside lore.
Yeah.
Try to hunt down. So when you created Adam Smasher, how did you put him as a character? All right.
Talk about tangents.
Even for
for
you just spent 10 minutes trying to do an outro. So
yeah.
all right, guys.
I went on a tangent on the outro.
Yeah. We will talk in the next episode. See you later.
Have a good night, everybody.